Jim Joyce.
Hey.
Wednesday. It's
Look at you.
we're almost at the end of season 10. This is episode 9 of season 10. So we got one more after this, and then it's a decade of episodes.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
La Vita è Bella. You're in beautiful Italy.
Yes, we're helping my older one move from one apartment to another, which is 30-second walk. But we just handed the keys this morning to the first one, and the second one, the internet connection is just horrendous. So I'm in a coffee place across the street. Hopefully this holds up, and actually I think it closes in about half an hour. So it's going to be, I think, the first time that I'm going to take the laptop outside or something. I don't know.
Yeah. We'll run with you. We'll run with you. This is all
we'll
part
run
of
with
it.
it. Meticulously unproduced.
This is why this is why we got 100 episodes behind us. Nothing stops us.
Rain, shine, internet access or not, but in yourself?
Yeah. Good. Yeah, lots going on in Health Beacon. There's some news today. We're kind of fit and flying and trying to contend with a busy world. I won't go into too many details, but all good.
Yeah, all good. There's Google, so people can look it up, I guess, and go from there. So yeah, listen. Let's let our next guest into the room here.
Awesome.
So the way I met Guy Friedman, I think I actually got introduced to Guy by Pavan from Architect Ventures, if I'm not mistaken. And there's Guy, and the reason he's on this show is you made it into our slide deck, Guy, because we say we are the SteadyMD of health coaching, right? So we'll get into
that. Which was great for my ego. Is the most important thing. So I did
it. Guy, you look exactly like your your avatar photo that came on beforehand. Did you take the photo recently, or you just don't age?
Yeah, 6 months since I took it. So
good stuff.
So Jim, Guy, Jim. There's a little delay here, but. I was just telling Jim, I'm in Florence and in a coffee place because this connection is actually better than the one in the house right now, my daughter's place. Yep. So we'll struggle through it, but welcome to the shot, man. I know I just we're meticulously unproduced and got you on. So fantastic to have you, and for the millions of our listeners and viewers. Let's tell us a little bit about yourself. You can start from birth all the way
from birth. From birth, sure. So yeah, I was born in Los Angeles, the suburbs. So I grew up there, and pretty typical LA suburb upbringing. Moved out to Boston for college, so I went to Tufts University in the Boston area. Then after undergrad, I worked in Manhattan, a series of jobs like consulting, banking, the typical track.
Right.
And then in 2006, right? 2006, I went to Wharton in Philadelphia. And so that's kind of where like the entrepreneurship stuff started. I started to get really interested in starting my own business and doing my own thing. So after I graduated Wharton, I started this company called Hire Next.
Okay.
And the product there was something called, it was a platform for online proctoring for higher ed and certification exams.
Okay.
Was kind of a very, very niche industry at the dawn of the education era. And now I'm a pretty large piece of the online ed market. But basically the product was when you took a exam for a college or university remotely, like you're in Florence and you're taking the UCLA math course, you could take your final or midterm exam over the computer, and we'd observe you over the webcam while you took the test and cheat. So now with COVID and online education exploding, it's actually one of the other businesses that really took off during COVID. So I did the full kind of like entrepreneurial round trip with that. Started it, sort of bootstrapped it to start, raised some VC, sold it, worked for the acquirer for a few years, and then after that, I found myself, I did the little earnout.
How long was that? How long was that whole?
The whole thing was 5 years. So
Wow.
the startup was 3 years, and then I sold it and then worked for the acquirer for 2 years. So it's kind of 5 year and
which
then
was the most
2-year.
Yeah, 2 year, yeah. Which was
it's
the
actually
most
more stressful.
stressful.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a different type of stress, right? There's the I'm not
running out of money.
I'm not getting a ton of traction. What am I going to do? That sort of stress at the startup.
Right. Yeah.
And then there's someone buys you, and
Right.
you join like a rocket ship. Like we're
Right.
talking massive growth in a very complex business. So
Right.
that was actually really stressful to join them, and suddenly like there's all these stakeholders, employees. I had never had that, so it was
Right.
really cool to get that experience.
And what about people touching your baby, you know, like giving you how to run it? How'd you find that?
That wasn't too, I'm not one of those,
Control freaks.
no, not control. Like there's this statement a lot of people make, I could never work for anyone. I thought it was pretty fun to work with that company. Like they were a great group and really smart, earth too, not like crazy startup people. Like they're just grinding away at this business. I learned a lot and it was fun. And so, did
I was gonna
that.
just comment. It's a very different experience, right? Like different scale, different tools in the belt that you learn.
Right.
Absolutely, scaling is a different level of stress because it's one thing to fail. It's another thing to have the opportunity to succeed and not do it. And we're going through it now too, which is
right.
There's a real opportunity to create a generational business right now where different than like we don't have any traction. How are we gonna do that? So
you almost can't imagine it.
Like sides of your brain, yeah.
Yeah, you almost can't imagine it when you actually get the traction. You'd be like, I can't believe we got this, and we're gonna whatever in some moments, in your darker moments, we're gonna screw this up, and we've got everyone, we got the money, we got the resources.
Yeah, no, it's I call it preparing for success. Like, what happens if we're successable? It's unimaginable. What if we actually sign this deal? Like, are we like So I try and like get the framework of the team, like prepare for success. Like, think about what you're doing now manually. 100x it. Is it going to work? No, obviously, because so we have to scale ourselves as well as execute. You have to think about what if this 10x is? What if it 100x is? We have to.
And it's this really interesting skill set of like when everything's within touching distance, you can manipulate it, you can do stuff, and you can do so much at a small scale where, with some developers, you smart people that you just can't do as soon as that, scales to any degree.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it's a different type of stress, but it's fun. It's all of it's fun.
Yeah.
I think, to have fun every day. So where was I? Okay. So yeah, I left that company, and I took about 6 months off in between gigs. Me and my family, we moved to St. Louis, Missouri, where my wife is from.
Okay.
So kind of just like got in the bunker and really thought, okay, so I've worked in this industry where we're connecting up people via video. The proctor, which was, a younger like college student in my case, but was doing something in a complex system across a bunch of different entities. I thought, oh, this is really a telehealth platform. So I started to study telemedicine and digital health and didn't like any of the business models I saw. I just thought I definitely didn't want to do urgent care, teledoc type consults. This was 2015, 2016. So there wasn't all innovation that was happening now. But one thing I got really obsessed with was this idea that everyone was kind of like, no one was really optimizing for trust between the patient and the clinician. And that was kind of getting lost in all the innovation and all the ideas out there. So when we launched SteadyMD, we actually were a direct to consumer virtual primary care business. But we really tried to emulate the brick and mortar concierge primary care industry. Not like some people say concierge and it's really, pretty like primary care plus or whatever you want to call it. We were 10x the price of our closest competitor per month. So you paid a lot of money relative to online, but not relative to the in-person, but it was $99 a month, just for reference. But you got like a very bespoke, like aligned clinician with your life and lifestyle and health habits. Right. We matched you to the perfect clinician. And then it was a subscription business. And so you patients paid a monthly fee, the doctors saw those patients, and we built everything around that. So that was our core business for about 4+ years. We did the whole direct-to-consumer playbook, marketed on social media, patients signed up, we took care of them, retained them, and it was a great product. We grew every single month, had really good numbers. It was growing like pretty rapidly.
Right. Wow.
But during those,
I was going to say there's a but coming, right? Because the SteadyMD I know today is not the SteadyMD that you described for 4 years.
Yeah,
right?
no, so fast forward to early 2020, we kind of looked up and realized we built all this infrastructure to run our own business.
Right.
The ability to recruit, manage, and train clinicians across all 50 states, geographies, like that whole operational effectiveness. Train them on like all these different clinical protocols, prescriptions, labs, referrals, and back office staff doing the support for that in all 50 states at scale. A really robust product and technology that connected the patient experience to the clinician experience. So intake forms, scheduling systems, a really, really good chat app, which is still the best out there, and translating that to a clinician experience that could scale. And then underneath it all was this 50-state regulatory infrastructure, which we muscled out. You guys, probably every interview you have on this podcast is dealing with the state licensing, registry, all that. So we had done all that. At the same time, the whole industry was getting massive amounts of funding, and there was thousands of companies being launched from attacking every single condition and point solution under the sun. So fertility, birth control, men's health, women's health, you name it, like there's 25 companies in each category. They all need the same thing. They all need a clinician license where the patient lives, trained on their protocol. And, we realized in order for there, they'd have to spend the 2 or 3 years we spent, like super expensive money-wise, and then operationally, it's just a beast. Dozens of people, a huge amount of your attention. So we developed, this infrastructure platform that allowed other companies to plug into our clinician network using our product and tech. And then mid to late 2020, we kind of did the full pivot, and now we're powering a lot of the other. That's fully our business now. Powering a lot of the industry where you sign up for a really innovative digital health company, you might be seeing a SteadyMD clinician on the back end, and you wouldn't, you might not know, but we're really the infrastructure running and helping a lot of these companies scale and grow in a turnkey way versus let's spend 3 years trying to figure out Nebraska and like how to see a patient in Nebraska. We take all that burden off of them.
That's amazing.
Very complex. It's a very complex business. We take that complexity and try and aggregate supply and aggregate demand for the whole industry, so it's less complex. But to see a patient in a state, you have to get aligned with your clinicians by their state licensure and forecast, which is just a monster.
And Guy, what was the impetus for, yes, you realized you've built the infrastructure, you've built the USP around the licensure, but sounds like you guys were doing great, direct to consumer. It takes a certain type of individual and team. I think we talked actually, with Paul as well from 23andMe just recently on this. Direct to consumer is a different game than enterprise and B2B. What was the pivot? What was the big idea? And actually, how do you even manage 4 years of revenues, standing up the team and then doing the pivot, powering up, other companies. So curious on that part of the journey.
Yeah, so it's funny. I actually say this a lot. I don't know if I should be revealing this, but like I didn't do this crazy strategic review and called a board meeting and said, I'm pivoting, guys. I see this opportunity. One of our friends in digital health called me and said, hey, do you have any clinicians you could lend me for a few hours a day?
Right.
So I said to my clinician, as a way to augment I love my consumer business. You guys, I will allow you to work like under our infrastructure on this platform, just as a way for you guys to make some extra money if you're not busy.
Right.
That was,
Right.
it was like,
That was it.
And then, it was as close to a viral product as you could get in this corner of enterprise infrastructure.
Wow.
After we did that one project, I got dozens and dozens of calls from everyone. Based on, I didn't change my website, didn't hire anyone, didn't like go try and sell it, but just like, so I'm
I
not,
love this.
the brilliant part, I guess, was aggressively listening to that and pivoting and not,
Ignoring it.
But the signals were like, hit you over the head with the 2x4. It was so obvious that this was going to be a monster. Like, and I knew it. I've been in startups 10 years. I'm not like I knew it. I was like, this is my chance, like once in a career. To get this amount of inbound,
right?
Without trying, is like, oh my gosh. So we pivoted the whole business to that. It was so fast. You asked who we hired. I didn't hire anyone. The amount of business we got, we didn't have time to hire, train, and stand something up.
Right.
The consumer team, like, hey, remember how we recruited like 2 clinicians for our consumer business last month? I need 100 by the end of the month, and we did it. It was just kind of one of those cool moments in your career where
talk about 100x, right? 100x.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was like it was pretty cool though, because limited resources, and there was no backup, there was no like magic. We weren't going to solve the problem, with money or new team members in the time that the business was coming in.
Yeah.
So we had to do it quickly, and we did, and then we aggressively spent the last year and a half hiring the right infrastructure to keep scaling and growing with 4 or 5.
Who do you, I mean, like, so I imagine that the demand, like, is it, now are you at the point where you're looking for certain types of, like, are you starting to segment that, or are you still kind of like, hey, we're going to be the infrastructure for all these fascinating digital health, opportunities and properties?
It's not always like crazy creative stuff. Sometimes it's just like you're running urgent care or virtual primary care, which is really great too. I mean, that's a great product. But we're seeing like kind of like AWS, wherever the volume is, we will be. So
okay.
I think it's like if you're scaling,
right,
try doing what we do internally. That's when you call us. So where in the early part of maybe like late 2020, early 2020, it was like the direct to consumer people getting massive amounts of funding and needed help scaling. Now it's more of these enterprise folks who are starting to join digital health, and the bigger, more established companies are coming in and saying, oh, we want this platform, this thing, we want to aggressively pursue digital health as well. So I'm kind of, the market gives us signals, and then we, wherever there's volume, they're going to need us.
Yeah. And imagine it's not competitor. It's not really competitors, is there? It's not.
There's competitor.
Okay, got it.
We don't say their name out loud, but no, I guess there's a few, but
yeah.
There's always a few, and it's a good thing, right? Because I think that validates the market. And speaking, and I would love to dive back in a little bit into SteadyMD, but given the fact that you are servicing lots of the digital health companies, given the crazy funding rounds, but at the same time we're seeing cuts left and right, and instead of carrying the SG&A, I think that's the beautiful model of what you guys do for docs and what we do for health coaching, right? We've seen lots of these companies moving to flex work, right, just to kind of minimize their burn based on their demand, because that demand is unpredictable upstream. So maybe just curious on your thoughts on where we're seeing the digital health and that. I don't want to say a full correction, but I think we're seeing correction valuations and expectations. Hopefully you guys can hear me.
Absolutely, yeah. If you need to cut burn, you're almost for sure spending more than you need to on your clinician network infrastructure, which is your recruiting team, your training team, management, oversight, scheduling. That's a very operational, and so you can just like take use SteadyMD instead, and that saves you a lot. Operational costs, and then of course, if you have like a ton of full-time clinicians, that's like a no-brainer math problem
Right.
to use us. But I'd say even more on the operational side, like if you need to just, you want to be your product, you want to be like a great patient experience, the ability to acquire patients, and like clinical protocol development and building out the product that way, but you don't want to own is there a nurse available in Idaho this week?
Right.
Which that's the expensive part of running the business. Then you can just outsource it to us. So we're seeing more and more of these companies come to us. Can you take over the whole thing?
Right.
Where there was more resistance, a year or two ago when people were building it out.
Right. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm delighted. I'm excited about this.
And Guy, maybe curious. I see you pretty active on the Health Tech Nerds Slack channel and other things. I mean, just always curious. Another entrepreneur's view of what we've seen in the past on the funding round. Where do you see digital health, kind of today and moving right towards? Because you sort of
I think
come out of non-health, right? Entered health, pivoted across from DTC to to B2B, and we're seeing some of the DTC brands are now shifting towards B2B, towards employers and other things. But curious on your thoughts, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously there was a kind of like in the last year, there was the simultaneous funding of similar companies in the same category.
Okay.
So I have kind of like a front row seat because I get the calls from them. So when like 5 startups in the same category call me in the same week and they're all funded, we're kind of like, well, there's not enough market size. You're all just going to knife each other for patients online, right? So I think you're seeing like a bit of overfunding within the same categories, and then there's going to be consolidation. They'll be picked up by the bigger companies, or they'll merge, or they'll pivot to a different customer acquisition strategy, like you said.
Okay.
Obviously, the cost of acquisition can't sustain if there's like billions of dollars in the same category, but I believe there still is a high willingness to pay for that product. It's just there's too many players. So I think we're going to see a correction back to consumer, once it kind of shakes out. I don't know if I mentioned your question, but this is kind of like my industry view. And then some are going to pivot to enterprise and try and get the payer deals and stuff like that. That's kind of the routes they're going to take. But one thing is, like, there's a lot of good products out there. They're good. They're solid, and a lot of them are growing. Just multiples are compressed, but their revenue is growing, or their users are growing. So in that environment, I think a lot of them are going to survive.
Right.
It's just the crazy valuations that's probably gone for the next few years at least.
Okay.
It was actually interesting.
When you think about,
go ahead, Jim. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was gonna ask your thoughts on consumer. Just it's the same. You made it seem really easy, like you're just with that initial consumer business where like, so what if it was fantastic, we're like, for example, my company, we're trying to bring into the consumer market, and we find it quite challenging. We have a device that works for kind of a segment of the care population, right? So how did what was your thoughts? Or you said you ran the playbook. Just maybe get some quick words of wisdom.
So when I started the bit, I was always like, I don't know much about your business, but I always said it's hard to get people to pay for something they've never paid for. So you see, like, whatever, like I'm the best Lyme disease app care thing in the world. But no one's ever paid for that. There's no consumer when we launched our business, there was a viable consumer market for concierge primary care. Like, this was a multi-billion-dollar industry within primary care that people paid cash for. So I said, okay, there's a signal that people will pay for extra time and attention from a clinician. And that was like off the bat, my first proof point, versus trying to create
a category.
A great product, but no one's ever paid for it. I don't think I'm that That's smart to do that. So we basically said no one still to this day has copied that model, that the original SteadyMD virtual primary care business. Now Lemonade Primary Care from Paul. But so we and then we're just like very disciplined about cost of acquisition and experiment, the million marketing experiments. One thing we discovered, so of the 10,000 experiments we did, one of the more, I don't know how it is now. I don't know if it's become efficient. In 2017, influencer was actually, you could find really good deals with influencer marketing on like Instagram and Facebook.
Right.
From people who had, 50 to 200,000 followers.
Right.
The cost of acquisition, it wasn't as scalable as Google or Facebook, but like,
you get access to that.
Cost of acquisition was very low. Yeah. So that was something we kind of cracked there in the early years, and then it transitioned to Facebook and Google.
Okay.
Once we started scaling, but we did like, the when I say the playbook, we did the 10,000 experiments with marketing.
Right.
Things, and lo and behold, one of them worked.
Right.
Athletic influencers on Facebook and Instagram, CrossFit runners, whoever. That was like a great channel for us, so we just leaned into that. At one point, I had the top 10 CrossFitters and men and women in the world like promoting us on Instagram. So if you do CrossFit, or anyone listening to CrossFit, I'm kind of a celebrity in the CrossFit world. I've never done CrossFit, but if you say, do you know what SteadyMD is? Guarantee they know what it is, and so things like that. That's how we did that. So we did that for years. Just one thing for sure, nothing ever worked for long. Eventually, you had to. The experimentation was like part of the business. Just like, okay, this is broken.
New channel, do this.
What's the email, Mark? Oh, we did a partnership with like the mommy bloggers.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the right term, but there's a category there. Crazy good. It's like they're like, and they have a whole business promoting products, and we were, it's just one of those
sponsors of it.
But it was just one experiment of 100, and we're like, okay, let's get all the.
And what is it? And when you look at that with experimentation, like, is it, is it just similar to consumer? Like, it's just getting health tech people to think like a consumer acquisition.
I was talking about my old business for that.
Yeah.
The new like you said, we have not that much competition. So fortunately, we market on like LinkedIn, Facebook, and but it's a lot of inbound. Like our biggest deals, they just call us, So luckily, we're sort of in a, 2 or 3 players are in this market, really.
Right.
So you're calling all those players if you want to do something, and so but obviously that's going to change. More competition will come in, and it'll get more competitive, and we're going to have to be aggressive about our marketing and branding strategy for now.
And retention, right? And retention, right? Because there's not enough docs out there in US, right? And so, is what potentially could happen. And, we're looking at this even from a health coach perspective, right? Don't want to talk about Uber and Lyft, but, many drivers have Uber and Lyft, right? So does that mean, some of these docs will be on, SteadyMD and, unmentioned competitors at the same time, right?
Not really for clinicians, because of the complexity of the onboarding. It's too annoying to be on 2 platforms. It's like credential, background check, contract. It's not like the come to this conference room, we'll train you to be a Uber, like a delivery driver or whatever. That part, and then in the platform, you're available for like different partners and the training. Like, it's not as slick as a single ride. So I think you might really love one company and work for them. Like, I love this digital health company, I'm going to work for them, and then do SteadyMD on the side. Doesn't really make sense to do that, though. Just work for SteadyMD, and we'll get you access to all these cool digital health opportunities. Let us be your agent to the industry.
Right.
You don't need to do it with 2 companies. Like, it doesn't make sense. It's sort of a similar offering.
And you saying, so how do you, I mean, so how do you deal with all this inbound, are you able to manage it? Yeah,
we have
exactly.
we have one,
Yeah.
tell them what we do. We have, like, there's a lot of work that goes in
Right.
what we do. So it's kind of like explaining to them, almost educating them on, like, here's what you're looking at if you don't go with SteadyMD,
Right.
and then here's what we can offer. And 90, if you're talking to someone that understands that, it's almost physical. You can see their shoulders relax when we explain to them what SteadyMD is, because
Yeah. I got stressed when you started talking about state to state regulations.
Oh, no,
I don't even have to.
So if you're in the industry, you're like, what? There's always a moment, I think, when people do digital health starts where someone's about all that stuff. Like, really? And then
Yeah.
and then they call us, and we say, basically, we can solve this problem for you turnkey. And then
Right.
it's not an easy sale because of pricing,
Yeah.
but the value prop is unassailable. It's
Right.
like, of course,
Cool.
Sorry, gents. I'm getting kicked out because the coffee place is, so I keep moving more and more away from the Wi-Fi. But
This is our guy. This is
fiesta time.
meticulously unproduced. And with that, Jim, do you want to just then go to your famous question, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So to yourself, obviously an East Coast to West Coast transplant, ending up in the in the beautiful state of Missouri, and you're walking into a coffee shop at an event, and you overhear this entrepreneur that had already launched and sold other companies is moving into healthcare for the first time, and he's completely stressed out thinking about the challenge. And you look at that much younger person after you've sold, or after you've built SteadyMD into the multi-billion-dollar iconic healthcare company. And what piece of advice would you give to that young guy? No pun intended.
Yeah, no, good question. I mean, there's like a laundry list of tactical advice, I would say, just like little things, but like the big overall, I think it's honestly like find like-minded people who are as ambitious as you, because I think healthcare is one of those industries where it's so easy to be skeptical. And if you pitch your business to anyone, it's like you're either going to get the blank stare because they don't, or they'll tell you how it's currently done.
Right.
And it's kind of like you need the people who you need those your network of folks that aren't skeptical and will chop it up with you about any crazy idea you have. Like, I have crazy ideas, but I always use the example, like, if I went to one of my friends and said, hey, I want to compete with SpaceX.
Right.
I mean, they're dominant. I want to fly to Mars too. A lot of friends would be like, all right, let's think how we would do this. Like you have to like buy rocket fuel and like buy a rocket. Like, we actually talk about it, where 95% of my, my friends who are good friends would just like, it's not. So find those people. That's my like high level, but obviously tactical. I'll give you the play-by-play. Use Trello, Slack, stuff like that. But I think it's find people that, it's lonely otherwise if you have crazy ideas and you're an entrepreneur and no one really knows what you're doing. To not have people to talk to about it. So, and I definitely didn't in the early years. Like, I didn't care about that.
Right.
And so it was lonely. It was like I was a solo founder, and now I think that's something that you really have to cultivate too. And I'm shy, so it's not easy. But that's probably my biggest piece of advice.
That's awesome. That's why I hang out with you, Jim.
I was just gonna say, that's why we do this Wednesdays. It's a crazy idea that was born and stuck with it.
Crazy idea. If you guys want to start the Crazy Idea podcast, I'll keep here. Yeah.
That's our
awesome.
next career. I have too many podcasts going on already, but
I admire it. I think I'm jealous of these podcasts because you talk to cool people all day. So that's great.
No,
That's
amazing.
awesome.
Awesome. Guy, thanks for joining. And for
That was fun.
many listeners, share, subscribe, and pass it on. Cheers.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for